Hey, this is Mike from the Run Testers, and in this video we're going to be giving you a multi-tester take on the Brooks Glycerin 21 and how it compares to the Brooks Ghost Max. Two very good Brooks shoes, but ultimately if you had to pick between the two, which one should you go for? We'll let you know in this video. So let's talk about how to best class these shoes. The Glycerin 21 is a cushioned daily trainer style shoe that's all about putting a plush level of cushioning under your feet to provide comfort and protection over all distances. The Ghost Max is Brooks' latest max cushion shoe that is similarly about protecting those legs, albeit in a slightly different fashion. Both are available in medium and wide fits, and price-wise the Ghost Max is the cheaper of the two shoes. The Glycerin 21 costs £165 in the UK or $160 in the US. Weight-wise, the Max is the heavier of the two, coming in at 294 grams compared to 280 grams on the same size UK 8 Glycerin 21. In terms of drop, the Ghost Max has a 6mm drop compared to the 10mm one on the Glycerin 21, with the Max putting more foam under your foot. That additional foam in the Max is Brooks' DNA Loft V2 compared to the softer feeling DNA Loft V3 used in the Glycerin 21. The Ghost Max has the added quality of Brooks' Glide Roll rocker to offer a little more assistance with that transition from heel to toe. The Glycerin is designed to have a wide base to balance out that midsole bounce with some stability, while the Max similarly uses a broad base and heel counter to offer some added support too. On the upper front, the Ghost Max uses an engineered mesh one compared to the knitted kind on the Glycerin 21. In terms of outsoles, both pack in plenty of rubber to signal that these are shoes well equipped to stand strong in dry and wet conditions and are well built for soaking up a lot of your running time.
So when it comes to fit, I ran in my regular running shoe size in both of these shoes, which is a UK 8.5. That's what I would normally go for in Brooks. Overall, I think the differences between these two shoes are that the Ghost Max shoe holds a little tighter, it's a little bit more snug. There's a little bit more kind of airiness, roominess in the toe box of the Glycerin 21 to the point where it feels very, very spacious. The Ghost Max are spacious enough, no problems with kind of hitting the end of the toe box, plenty of clearance across the top of the toe box as well, plenty of wiggle room, all of that. But then when you flip into the Glycerin, yeah, I would say that one is bordering on maybe being a little bit too loose. That may well suit you if you're going to use these for really, really long miles. If this was a shoe you might be picking to go and do an ultra in and you want lots of space in the toe box, you're going to get that ample here. If you like things a little bit more dialed in, a little bit less room, you might consider going half a size down. Overall though, from heel hold, midfoot lockdown, I don't think there's much to choose between these two shoes. I got good lockdown and hold in both of the shoes, and overall I'd recommend going true to size.
So fit for me has overall been very good in both of these shoes. I've had them both in UK size 8s, and that's typically what I would go for in my running shoe size, and also kind of Brooks in general. It's been that kind of medium width kind of fit as well too, so not that kind of wider fit that you do have available on both of these shoes. What I would say is experience is, I think maybe the Ghost Max sits a little bit more snug up front in the toes, but you know, it's not been uncomfortable or felt like I've needed to have a bit more room, whereas I think there's a bit more volume in general on the Glycerin 21 for me, and I found it a little bit more spacious in that part of the shoe. But generally I think the feel of the shoes feel very similar. There's a bit more padding in the heel on the Glycerin 21 compared to the Ghost Max, but there's still a good level of padding on the Ghost Max from that point of view, so getting good comfort from that aspect of the shoe. There's similar level kind of padding in the tongue. The laces are similar as well, this kind of spongy style as well, so you're getting good comfort on the top of your feet as well here too. So yeah, I don't think there's a massive amount in it. I think, you know, me going true to size, UK size 8 has been absolutely fine. Getting that medium width fit I think worked well as well too. And I think these shoes are generally pretty spacious, and how they feel naturally kind of are roomy shoes in general, and I think going true to size should be absolutely fine for most people.
So then in testing, I've run around 50 kilometers in the Glycerin 21 and north of 50 miles in the Ghost Max. That's been a mix of paces and durations in both shoes. I've done plenty of slower, easier miles, time up to 90 minutes on feet. That's mixed in with some faster paced efforts to test the versatility of the shoes. I've done most of that on road, but with some river paths thrown in, which is always a good test for the grip, the stability and the durability of the shoes. Now a quick word from those tests. Well, the Ghost Max was a shoe that I enjoyed For a bigger cushion shoe, I think it feels quite natural. There's a good roll and clip thanks to the rocker, that glide roll technology. It's nicely protective and stable, and overall it's a shoe that I'm happy, very, very happy plodding out longer, slower efforts in. The Glycerin 21 was a bit of a surprise for me in my testings. This is the first time I've run in a Glycerin, and again, it's not a shoe I'd usually gravitate towards. But the overall feel of this is that it's a good shoe for slower comfort, but with a midsole and rocker combo that's lively enough to add some welcome versatility in there as well. This shoe here can cope with some mid-tempo efforts as well. So two solid shoes here that I generally quite like running in. Now, to tease out the differences, I've also done my usual side-by-side mile test with one shoe on each foot, and this is what I found. So I've just done my side-by-side mile. I've got the Brooks Ghost Max on the left foot. I've got the Glycerin 21 on the right foot. Cushioned comfort, protection, you know, plushness in the collars, all of that kind of stuff is going to get oodles of that in both of these shoes. And there's a great similarity between them, actually. They are both very, very comfortable. They both take the edge off the road, lots of impact protection. The main difference here, when you put them side by side like this, is that you notice that the Ghost Max is tuned slightly softer. The Glycerin with that DNA Loft V3 foam responds a little bit more. It comes back a bit more quickly. There's a bit more immediacy. There's a bit more pop and energy coming out of the midsole. It's not a huge amount, and I think that, again, this is another one of these where these two shoes, there's margins here, and it just depends, I think, on how you're going to use them. If you want a shoe that's only going to be for soft cushion comfort over easy recovery miles, the Ghost Max is probably going to do a better job at that. It can go a little bit faster, but the Glycerin 21, because of that slightly more responsive foam that snaps back a little bit quicker, I think that is a shoe that's going to do the soft and easy and slow nicely, but is better at the kind of faster sort of middling paces. It can cope up tempo. I wouldn't choose it for that. But yeah, between these two shoes, that's your main difference here. You're going to get a slightly livelier ride, a slightly faster, more responsive, energetic return from the Glycerin 21 than you are from the Ghost Max. The Glycerin is also marginally lighter, but I don't think that makes a huge amount of difference here. The only other sensation that I wanted, I mentioned it in the fit, I think the Glycerin, they feel much more roomy and a bit more sort of baggy, if you want to say, overall into the toe box. That maybe changes the dynamism of the ride. So if you want something that feels a bit more dialed in and dynamic, you might want to go half a size in to get them to feel a bit more snug. And then they might feel a bit more sort of energetic and racy in terms of the overall kind of feel on the foot. But otherwise, I think between these two shoes, your choice is going to be, do you want something that's probably going to be better tuned to those longer, slower miles with cushion protection? It's a little bit more kind of slow and sluggish maybe, or do you want something that's a little bit snappier, a little bit faster by comparison, in which case you're going to go Glycerin 21. Easier, slower, more cushion, more protective, go for the Ghost Max, but more on that in the verdict.
So in terms of that run test now, it's obviously important to talk about here how these shoes are classed in kind of Brooks's range. So the Ghost Max is a max cushion shoe, so that is going to be a shoe that's going to offer that kind of maximal kind of protection and level of cushioning. So when you are running a lot, you're running longer on a regular basis, it's going to give you that protection, protect your legs better. Now, on the Brooks Glycerin 21, it's a cushion shoe. It is a shoe that gives you a softer feeling midsole compared to the Brooks Ghost Max. So if you wanted something that feels a little bit more plush, a little bit more comfortable, a little bit softer in general compared to the DNA Loft V2 that you're getting in the Brooks Ghost Max, then that's kind of what you're going to get here. But ultimately, I think in terms of my experience, they are kind of designed for the same types of runs, and that's how I've tested them. I have tried to do some quicker stuff, and it's mainly in the Brooks Glycerin because it is a shoe that previously has been known, particularly the Glycerin 20, to be a shoe that you can run a kind of mixture of sessions in. But ultimately, where these shoes really sit or stand is for those kind of longer, slow, easy recovery runs and easy paced runs. Now, in terms of that experience, obviously, you are getting something a lot softer feeling on the Brooks Glycerin 21, and you do notice that. You do get some bounce there as well too, and it is very stable, and that kind of midsole is spread across a very broad, kind of stable, kind of wide platform. It's a similar story with the Brooks Ghost Max. Obviously, it's not as soft as the Brooks Glycerin in terms of that midsole, but it's definitely not, I would say, as firm as something like the Brooks Ghost. And also you are getting something that's going to protect, and there's some bounce there as well too. And like the Glycerin 21, it is a pretty wide kind of stable base there, so when you are getting that bounce, you're getting spread across nicely so that it's nice and stable as well too. I think the biggest difference for me in terms of my experience is that in the Ghost Max, you've got that kind of glide roll kind of rocker, and it is a more noticeable rocker than what you're getting in the Glycerin 21, which it doesn't really have one ultimately. So it really is, you're kind of sinking in, you're bouncing along, and you're really getting that protection and kind of comfort. Whereas I think with the Brooks Ghost Max, if you did want to pick the pace up, and obviously it still feels like a big shoe to do that in, there's a bit more capability to do that in the Brooks Ghost Max compared to the Glycerin 21. And I found when I did run a little bit more up tempo, I mean, it's not a shoe that I would probably do a lot of tempo runs in, but I do feel like the ride just lent itself a bit better to that kind of style of running. So if you did want to pick it up in places, then this feels a lot nicer to do it in the Ghost Max. In terms of other things, I think outsole wise and kind of durability, I mean, both of these have got very kind of thick amounts of rubber here on these outsoles. With the Ghost Max, it's a bit more consistent in terms of the design. On the Glycerin 21, it's a bit more unique in terms of the approach on all sections of your foot here on the outsole. But ultimately, I think the experience, it's very good. It clearly screams kind of durability, and these are going to be shoes that are going to last a long amount of time. They're going to grip well, they're going to give you a lot of rubber there to last a long time, and they kind of add to the kind of stable kind of nature of both these shoes and what they're like to run in. So what I would say is about my running time in these shoes is that I feel like they're going to work best, or do work best, for the same types of runs, but I do think there's a little bit more in the ride on the Brooks Ghost Max, which might make it appeal and make up for the maybe slightly firmer feeling midsole that you're getting here compared to the Glycerin 21, which is softer, still has that bounce, but also maybe that ride just isn't as pronounced as it is as it is on the Ghost Max. So that's kind of my general feelings of what I've taken away from my time running in the Glycerin 21 and the Ghost Max.
So my verdict here, well, both of these shoes are very capable with solid credentials, particularly at the easier end of those everyday sort of daily miles. Now, separating them, well, I like the fit of the Ghost Max better. I think overall it feels a bit more disappearing and natural on the foot. When it comes to the ride, I think the Glycerin 21 edges it though, simply because I think it can handle the slow and easy miles with sufficient comfort and protection, but has much more faster effort potential. That's thanks to a snappier, slightly stiffer DNA Loft V3 foam that's livelier. I find the Ghost Max marginally more stable, so if that's important to you, maybe factor that in when you're choosing between these two shoes. But if I had to choose just one shoe here out of these two, my verdict would be that I'd go for the Glycerin 21. Yes, it's more expensive in the UK certainly, but it will cover much more range than the Ghost Max. But if you're only in the market for a shoe to take care of easy or recovery runs, then I think you could definitely save your money and go for the Ghost Max, and that will do a great job as well.
Okay, so my verdict on whether you should go for the Brooks Ghost Max or the Brooks Glycerin 21. Now, I thought this was going to be quite a straightforward one for me, but I think ultimately now that I've had some time in the Glycerin 21, and based on the changes that Brooks has made with the shoe, and it makes me feel more like it's veering into that max cushion territory. Ultimately, what I feel like, these are two good Brooks shoes, two good cushion Brooks shoes designed for the same types of runs. I think ultimately excel at those types of runs, those kind of short or longer, slow, easy recovery style paces. But I think they just deliver that experience slightly differently. I think with the Brooks Ghost Max, it's got that rocker in it. I just think it makes the ride a little bit nicer, more enjoyable from a point of view if you just want to slightly pick the pace up in places. It's not a super light max cushion shoe, but I do think it lends itself a little bit more to running a little bit quicker in. The change in the Brooks Glycerin 21 for me still makes it very much a kind of easy day shoe, and I don't think it has the same versatility as the Glycerin 20, and also I think it kind of lacks that compared to the Ghost Max. If we're looking at price, this is cheaper. Saying that they kind of serve it for the same types of runs, I would probably go for the Ghost Max, which is kind of not what I was initially thinking I was going to go for, but I feel like it probably just edges it. I think it really depends on the day, really, what you want from your run and what you kind of value. I think for me though, having that extra rocker in the ride kind of makes up for that kind of firmer feel that you're going to get on the Ghost Max. But yeah, for me, it would probably just be the Ghost Max for me. I probably would go for the Glycerin 20 personally, but I think between these two shoes, I think the Ghost Max just edges it for me in terms of that extra rocker that you're getting, and the midsole that I think will work for me and can work for me as well too. Because everywhere else, durability, kind of stability, I think kind of support, that level of bounce, that kind of protection over longer distances, there's not much in it between these two shoes, as is kind of fits and the kind of outsoles. Okay, so there you have it. That is how the Brooks Ghost Max compares to the Brooks Glycerin 21. Now, hopefully you found that video useful and it gave you a better sense of how these two shoes compare, maybe help you decide between the two shoes as well too. Now, if there are other shoes that you want to see the Glycerin 21 compared to, do let us know in the comments. As always, like and subscribe, hit that little bell to find out about our latest videos, and yeah, we'll see you for the next Run Testers video.